Truistery Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
Truistery Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Ava Quinn first stepped off the Greyhound bus into Redwood Falls on a crisp spring morning, the sky still tinged with lavender and the scent of pine drifting up from the foothills. At 24, she carried both the wide-eyed hope of someone fresh out of a small Wisconsin town and the quiet determination of a veteran traveler. Her auburn hair caught the pale sunlight as she tucked a loose strand behind her ear, surveying the modest downtown strip, brick storefronts, a single movie theater marquee announcing last weekend's blockbuster, and the neon glow of the Redwood Tap in the distance. She'd arrived to begin her new role at Nova Drive Motors, a cutting-edge electric vehicle startup that had set up shop in an old Ford showroom on Maple Avenue. As she climbed the 3 steps to the showroom floor, its cavernous interior now filled with sleek EV prototypes, Ava took a deep breath. This was the future she'd dreamed of, combining her passion for sustainable technology with the bright promise of a second act. Back in Willow Creek, her high school friends still teased her for chasing a Silicon Valley fantasy into the heart of Northern California. But this wasn't California's Bay Area. This was Redwood Falls, a town of 9,000 souls where local farmers met tech-minded risk-takers at the county fair. It was perfect. It was home. Her first stop was the break room, an open corner with mismatched chairs, a row of vintage motorcycle posters on the wall, and a coffee maker that gleamed like chrome. Lucas Parker, Nova Drive's store manager, slid in beside her with a mug in hand. "Welcome to the team, Ava," he said, nodding toward the lineup of prototypes outside, the cobalt blue Zephyr EV, the compact lime green Bolt box, and the matte black Stratos that looked like a spaceship. "We're lucky to have someone with your drive." Ava smiled, feeling a spark of pride. This was no corporate showroom in LA or New York. Here, every sale meant not just a commission check, but one more clean mile on America's roads. She listened intently as Lucas outlined her goals for the week, mastering the Zephyr's battery swap feature, shadowing his customer demo ritual, and pitching the charitable ride-along program, where Nova Drive donated 10 miles of carbon-neutral driving for every test drive booked by local nonprofits. Next came the quick tour of Redwood Falls itself, the Clock Tower Plaza, rescued from demolition and repurposed as the town's weekend farmers market, the Redwood Falls Arboretum, where young redwood saplings thrived beneath their ancient predecessors, and, of course, the towering waterfall at the edge of town, its roar both soothing and invigorating. "Our people come here to unplug and recharge," Lucas said as they walked. "We're selling more than cars. We're selling a better way of life." Ava's eyes lit up. She'd spent her whole life surrounded by cornfields and dairy barns, dreaming of making a tangible difference. Now she stood at the intersection of green tech and small-town charm, ready to tell that story. But beneath her excitement, there lay a quieter complexity, the memory of Jason Reed, the lieutenant at the sheriff's office who'd once promised forever before vanishing. In the slivers of dawn when sleep still danced at the edge of her mind, Ava could hear the echo of his laughter and taste the sting of his goodbye. Yet here, in this sunlit showroom, she felt an unfamiliar swell of hope replace the old ache. By lunchtime, she was already guiding her first potential buyer, a local elementary school teacher, through a hands-on walk-around of the Zephyr, explaining regenerative braking, pointing out the solar panel roof, and highlighting the car's seamless touchscreen interface. Ava found her rhythm. Each time her client's eyes widened in genuine wonder, Ava's confidence grew. As the afternoon light shifted gold across the polished showroom floor, Ava paused at the window and traced the silhouette of the distant waterfall. She'd come here to start over, to embrace a new chapter where purpose outshone pain. In Redwood Falls, surrounded by giant redwoods and small-town warmth, she felt ready to redefine both her career and her heart. Ava Quinn's heart still twinged at the memory of Lieutenant Jason Reed's departure, an ache she felt whenever the wind rustled the redwood needles outside her window. She first met Jason almost 2 years ago at the county's annual Spring Fling Festival. She was staffing a Nova Drive Motors booth, an enthusiastic college intern then, while he, in crisp uniform, manned the sheriff's recruitment table across the lawn. Their eyes locked over a sea of ribbon-cutting crowds and food trucks, and in that electric moment, the world narrowed to the space between them. He had that classic small-town charm, dark hair neatly parted, a faint scar above his right eyebrow from some long-forgotten childhood scrape, and eyes that flickered between steely determination and genuine warmth. As Lieutenant Reed, he carried authority easily, but when he offered to buy Ava a lemonade from the nearby stand, his smile softened into something tender. They walked side by side under strings of twinkling lights, and conversation came effortlessly, shared jokes about the town's quirky mascot, confessions of favorite hiking spots near the falls, and the quiet revelation that they both loved reading Kerouac on rainy Sundays. Their romance blossomed quickly. Jason introduced Ava to his childhood haunts, the climbing boulders behind Redwood Falls Arboretum where he'd first learned resilience, and the abandoned railway bridge where he and friends once carved their initials. Ava, in turn, led him on midnight drives in her beat-up Subaru Outback, windows down, as they chased moonlight through whispering pines. For a time, they felt invincible, two young souls forging a shared dream of service and discovery. But beneath the warmth lay a growing tension neither wanted to name. Jason's family, wealthy and influential in Redwood Falls County, expected loyalty to tradition and legacy. His father, retired Sheriff Albert Reed, had envisioned Jason following an unbroken lineage of lawmen. Yet the Reeds held tightly to their social circle and whispered about keeping things proper. Ava's parents were farmers, respected but humble. Good people, they said, but not the right kind for a Reed. Ava noticed it first in chilling looks from Mrs. Reed whenever she escorted Jason home. At one holiday party under the grand chandeliers of the Reed estate, Ava dressed in her best forest green dress, only to feel ice in Mrs. Reed's polite question. "Tell me, Ava, how is your family's farm doing this season? I hope you don't mind leaving your roots behind." The undercurrent stung, a reminder of her outsider status. Jason seemed to shrink under his family's expectations. He stopped holding her hand in public, offered half-hearted excuses when he was late, and grew distant in his tone. Late one evening, Ava found him on the front porch of her small rented apartment, face illuminated by the porch light, tension in his jaw. "Ava," he began, voice rough. "I can't keep doing this." Her heart lurched. "Doing what?" He looked away, gaze drifting over the mosquito-lit yard. "Trying to convince everyone that this, us, works. My family, they can't accept it. They've made that clear." Her chest tightened. "So you're choosing them over me?" He closed his eyes as if bracing. "You deserve someone who can stand by you openly. I'm not that man right now." In that moment, Ava felt years of hope and tenderness shatter like spring ice underfoot. She tried to argue, to remind him of their laughter and shared dreams, but Jason only looked at her with sorrow. "I love you, Ava. That's why I can't drag you into this mess." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving her struggling to hold back tears and the sense that the ground itself had shifted beneath her. In the weeks that followed, Ava wandered the empty roads near Redwood Falls Arboretum, replaying every moment with Jason. The memory of his laugh at dawn, the feel of his uniform-clad arm around her, and the soft brush of his lips on her forehead, these memories both comforted and tormented her. She poured herself into work at Nova Drive Motors, burying sorrow beneath spreadsheets and promotional pitches. Yet even as she closed deals and guided customers through test drives, a hollow ache remained. Jason, for his part, returned to duty with quiet efficiency. Ava caught glimpses of him on morning news segments, standing with his squad at community outreach events, handing out school supplies to local children. In uniform, he seemed to reclaim the strength she had loved, but his eyes were often distant, as if mourning something private. The last blow fell when she learned he was being promoted to captain at the sheriff's office. Word spread that his family had exerted influence, praising his leadership, but unspoken was the confirmation that he had chosen their prestige over his heart. The community paraded his photo in local papers as a hometown hero, while Ava watched from her apartment window, feeling as though her own story had been erased. That summer, Ava accepted an invitation from Lucas Parker to help launch Nova Drive Motors' carbon-free summer campaign. She left Redwood Falls for a month of events across California, Los Angeles, San Diego, and even Sacramento. She was determined to forge a new path, one where her worth wasn't measured by family pedigree or whispered judgments. The miles she logged in conference rooms and trade show floors became a lifeline. When she finally returned, the Redwoods welcomed her in silent solidarity. She visited the waterfall at dusk. When the spray caught the last glimmers of sunlight, the wind carried the sound of rushing water and whispered promise. Life goes on. And Ava, whose spirit had been tested by love and loss, felt a flicker of resilience reignite. She was no longer the small-town girl yearning for approval. She was a woman who had weathered heartbreak, who had chosen her own journey. In the months that followed, she encountered Jason one last time, at a town hall meeting addressing environmental safety around the new Nova Drive battery plant. He stood at the back in uniform, eyes fixed on her as she presented a proposal for community-funded charging stations. Their eyes met, and there was a wordless exchange: gratitude, regret, and a recognition that their story had altered both of them irrevocably. Ava felt no anger then, only a quiet confidence that she had chosen herself first. As she finished her presentation to warm applause, she caught Jason's respectful nod. It was a silent acknowledgement of what had been, and what would never be again. A cool evening breeze carried the scent of pine sap and distant barbecue smoke as Ava Quinn pushed open the heavy wooden door of the Redwood tap. Warm amber light spilled out onto the sidewalk, illuminating rows of gleaming beer taps behind the bar and a scattering of high-top tables filled with clusters of locals. The tap was an eclectic mix of reclaimed barnwood and industrial steel, with vintage concert posters lining the walls. Above the dartboard in the back corner, a neon sign buzzed softly, proclaiming, "Good times on tap." Ava's heart, still tender from past heartbreak, thumped with a mix of anticipation and caution. Tonight was her first real night out since Jason Reed's farewell, a deliberate step toward rediscovering herself. Lucas Parker was already there, waving from the center of a large round table. He stood up in a loose flannel shirt and motioned Ava over. Surrounding him were 4 co-workers from Nova Drive Motors: Maya, the ever-energetic social media coordinator; Diego, the quiet but deadly salesperson; Jenna, who kept the showroom humming; and Marcus, the tech whiz with an encyclopedia's worth of trivia. "Ava's here, folks," Lucas called, and the group erupted in cheers, raising pint glasses filled with Redwood Falls IPA. "To fresh starts," Marcus toasted, spilling a drop as Marcus tried to catch it with his thumb in midair. Ava slid onto a bar stool between Maya and Diego. Maya immediately thrust a pint of the tap's seasonal for tree amber into her hands. "Experiment," Maya insisted. "It's brewed with hints of spruce and honey." Diego, already 4 sips in, winked. "You'll love it. Might even help you forget about ex-cops who can't commit." A chuckle rippled through the group. Ava raised her glass, her voice a touch shaky. "To forgetting and moving on," she said, clinking glasses with each of them. The warm malt and subtle pine notes lent comfort almost instantly, an edible hug at the end of a long week. As laughter and conversation picked up, Lucas flagged down the bartender, a lanky guy named Travis with a handlebar mustache and a ready grin. "Another round for the motorheads," Lucas announced. Travis leaned over, eyebrow cocked. "You're really going for it tonight, Quinn," he teased. "Ava," she corrected, blinking back a smile. "All right, Ava. Here, let me get you something special." He disappeared behind the taps, leaving Ava to soak in the camaraderie. Diego was mid-story, describing the ridiculous test drive incident where a customer tried to parallel park an EV by rolling backward into a flower bed. And then the tulips exploded everywhere. Diego roared with laughter, slapping the tabletop. Ava joined in, genuine amusement brightening her eyes. Emboldened by the buzz in her bones, Ava excused herself to find the restroom. She half expected to wander back into work mode, customer demos or battery tutorials, but instead found herself in a corridor lined with reclaimed doors labeled only men and ladies in weathered brass. She gave the men door a quick knock anyway, seconds before realizing her mistake. As she yanked it open, an equally startled stranger tumbled out. A tall man in a Rangers jersey clutching a baseball cap. Ava shrieked, stumbled backward, and the man let out a hearty laugh. "Wrong room, huh?" he called, adjusting his cap. Embarrassed, Ava bolted across the hall, her cheeks flaming, to the ladies' restroom. The muffled roar of laughter seeped through the thin wall. For a moment, she stood outside, hands on hips, feeling both ridiculous and oddly alive. Returning to the table with cheeks still warm, Ava found Maya and Jenna exchanged mischievous grins. "You okay?" Jenna teased in a concerned tone that was anything but. Yeah," Ava said, gingerly picking up her drink. "Just redefining boundaries." Lucas patted her hand, his eyes filled with warmth. "We all make that mistake once," he assured her. "Just means you're fully committing." Diego chimed in. "Want me to show you the secret back entrance next time?" The group burst into affectionate ribbing, and Ava laughed so hard she nearly gulped half her pint. In that laughter-filled haze, she felt the weight of the past begin to lift. As the night deepened, they moved on to a laid-back round of darts and impromptu karaoke, Maya belting out an earnest but off-pitch version of Don't Stop Believin', which prompted Diego and Marcus to serenade her in off-key harmony. Ava found herself dancing along, arms raised, as the warm glow of neon and good friends wrapped around her like a blanket. Yet beneath the surface joy, a small voice reminded her of tomorrow's sunrise meeting at the showroom. She wasn't here to get lost in the buzz forever, just enough to remember that life had more chapters to write. Ava Quinn left the Redwood Tap under a canopy of stars, the exhilaration of laughter and camaraderie still pulsing through her veins. She hugged herself against the chill night air and hailed a passing taxi, eager to get home before the buzz of alcohol faded into the hollow ache of memories. The driver, a burly man with a graying beard, nodded sympathetically when she explained her address on Birchwood Lane. "Hold tight," he said, pulling away from the curb. Halfway down Elm Street, a stray gravel patch sent the taxi's tires skittering. Ava gripped her seat as the car fishtailed, lights splintering against the asphalt. She felt her chest tighten. Then, for reasons she would never fully understand, she decided to step out and walk the rest of the way. "I can handle it," she'd whispered to herself. A miscalculated step off the curb sent her ankle twisting beneath her. Pain shot up her leg like a live wire, and she crumpled onto the sidewalk. City lights blurred as tears welled in her eyes. Hooded storefronts loomed around her, cold and silent. She cursed under her breath. How typical, she thought, to end a night of escape with a broken ankle. The sharp sting gave way to a choking wave of nausea and dizziness. Black spots clouded her vision. She tried to stand, but gravity had other plans. The world tilted again, and she collapsed fully onto her side, breath coming in ragged gasps. That's when she heard hurried footsteps. A figure loomed above her, slicing through the darkness like a beacon. "Miss, are you okay?" a calm, authoritative voice asked. Ava blinked up into the stranger's face, familiar lines, a steely gaze softened by genuine concern, and the badge glinting on his leather jacket. "Detective Ethan Clarke." "Detective Clarke?" she croaked, surprised that she was conscious enough to recognize him. She'd seen him at community safety talks, but never imagined he'd come to her rescue. He knelt beside her, shifting gently so as not to aggravate her injury. "You're outside Redwood Memorial," he said, voice low and steady. "You're pretty far from home. I watched you step off the curb. You took a nasty fall." Ava's lip quivered. "I thought I could still walk," she admitted, voice tight with pain. She drew in a shaky breath.
"I'm sorry."
I didn't mean to cause trouble. Hey, no apologies, Ethan said, pressing a gloved hand to her ankle with professional care. You've got a bad sprain. Maybe worse. Let's get you checked out. He reached into a shoulder bag slung across his chest and produced a pair of thin trauma shears. I need to expose your ankle to see how swollen it is. Can you wiggle your toes for me? Ava winced but complied. Her toes twitched faintly. The detective's brow furrowed. Good. Sensations intact. That's a positive sign. He tore the cuff of her jeans away, revealing a rapidly bruising, balloon-like joint. This needs immediate attention. Can you scoot onto your back for me? With surprising ease. Given the pain radiating through her leg, Ava shifted. She felt Ethan's steady hands lift and support her, then heard the soft click of his phone's emergency dialer. Medic response en route, he said as they settled into a more comfortable position. His tone remained composed, but Ava sensed genuine urgency in his words. Within minutes, the flashing red and blue of an ambulance bathed the street in urgent light. 2 paramedics hurried over, and Ethan gave them a concise report. Sprained, or possibly fractured, left ankle. Conscious. Oriented, no other injuries apparent. Name's Quinn, Ava Quinn. As the paramedics worked quickly to immobilize her leg, Ethan stayed close, offering a steady presence. He pressed a folded blanket into her lap, shielded her from the chill, and continued reassuring murmurs. Paramedic Rosa Martinez wrapped a splint around Ava's lower leg. You did the right thing by calling for help, she said kindly. We'll take you to Redwood Memorial for x-rays. Ethan nodded, helping her slide into the ambulance. I'll come with you, he told her. I'll wait in the emergency room. I work nights there sometimes. Ava managed a grateful smile through her trembling lips. The ride to the hospital passed in a blur of siren wails and the paramedics' professional chatter. Ava drifted in and out of awareness, the pain ebbing and flowing, but never quite letting her forget. When the ambulance doors opened at Redwood Memorial Hospital, Clinic Wing, Ethan was immediately at her side, guiding her onto a gurney. Inside the bright, antiseptic hallways, Ava saw nurses and doctors rushing past. Ethan caught the eye of a triage nurse and gave her a quick summary. 24-year-old with suspected ankle fracture. Fall from standing height after possible alcohol intoxication. The nurse led Ava into a private exam room without delay. As Ava, was settled on the stretcher, Ethan lingered by her side. You'll be all right, he promised. I'll stay until they know what's going on. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead with surprising tenderness. In that moment, Ava felt an unexpected surge of comfort. The worry and shame of her accident seemed to recede beneath the sincerity in his green-gray eyes. The attending physician, Dr. Navarro, appeared a moment later. We'll get you x-rayed immediately, he said, offering a reassuring smile. You did the right thing calling for help. Ethan gave Ava's hand a gentle squeeze before stepping back to confer quietly with the medical team. Alone with her thoughts, Ava let out a slow breath. The night had taken an unexpected turn from awkward pub antics to genuine peril and then remarkable kindness. As the X-ray technician wheeled her away, she caught Ethan's reassuring nod. In that nod lay a promise. She wasn't alone. And in the sterile glow of the hospital corridor, just as fear and pain threatened to overwhelm her, she found a new anchor in Detective Ethan Clarke's steady presence. In the fluorescent glow of Redwood Memorial's ER, Ava lay propped on a recliner, her left ankle elevated in a cushioned brace. Detective Ethan Clarke hovered just outside the curtain, concern etched in his stance. When the nurse stepped away, he slipped in, hands folded loosely. How are we feeling? He asked, voice warm but professional. Ava offered a small smile. Less like I've been trampled by a herd of angry elk, she joked, and Ethan's relief was evident. He pulled up a chair, speaking in calm tones about follow-up x-rays, pain management, and the likelihood of an ankle sprain rather than a fracture. As he explained each step, she realized how natural his care felt. No pity, just genuine goodwill. Over the next 48 hours, Ethan became her unofficial medical liaison. He arrived at the cracked hospital door just before visiting hours ended, slipping in to bring a granola bar or a steaming coffee from the cafeteria. They fell into easy conversation. He spoke of his early days in the sheriff's office, cadet drills at the precinct, and the thrill of solving his first minor case. Ava described her whirlwind move to Redwood Falls and her dream of promoting green technology. Each revelation chipped away at formality, building a bridge of shared experience. When his hand brushed hers while passing the coffee, Ava's pulse jumped, awareness flickering between nerves and delight. Upon her release, Ethan insisted on driving Ava home. She clutched a warm pack to her ankle as he maneuvered his SUV through quiet side streets. He parked on Birchwood Lane, flashing street lamps glinting off his badge. "Need help inside?" he offered. Voice gentle. Ava wavered for a heartbeat before nodding. He supported her under her elbow, steadying her as they climbed the steps to her front porch. Inside, she guided him to a stiff, upright chair. Without meaning to, he lingered, kneading tension from her shoulder with surprising tenderness. His proximity felt both electric and comforting, a reminder that some connections could start precisely when life knocked you off balance. By Saturday afternoon, Ava had graduated to crutches and a walking boot. She returned to Nova Drive Motors for a light day of paperwork. To her surprise, Ethan turned up at the showroom door in plain clothes, carrying a reusable tote. "I brought lunch," he announced. Inside the break room, he spread out sandwiches, fruit, and sparkling water. "I thought it might help morale," he teased, nodding toward her coworkers who peeked in with amused curiosity. Over turkey wraps, Ava marveled at how naturally he blended into her world, one moment protecting the town, the next sharing tomato basil soup and office gossip. When he caught her eye and tilted his head, she felt an easy warmth spread through her chest. That evening, Ethan invited her for a weekend wellness walk along the waterfall trail. Ava hesitated, her legs still aching, but he produced a sturdy hiking pole and a hopeful grin. Together, they navigated the moss-lined path, the roar of the falls in the distance. Golden light filtered through the redwoods, painting them in shades of honey. Ava hobbled, at first, but Ethan matched her pace, adjusting his stride so she never felt rushed. They paused at a mossy rock overlooking rushing whitewater. He pressed a small, neatly folded note into her hand, a simple poem about new beginnings. She read the verse aloud, their laughter echoing off granite walls, and for a moment, all injury and regret fell away. As autumn deepened, their weekends became rituals: brunch at Maple and Main Bakery, where Ethan let Ava sample every pastry before choosing a croissant, afternoon board games in the showroom's open area, where Lucas and Marcus teased them about office romance, and Sunday afternoon test drives, where Ethan sat beside her in the driver's seat of the Zephyr EV, pointing out the benefits of regenerative braking and the quiet thrill of electric acceleration. Each shared activity built familiarity, small gestures like Ava's hand brushing his when passing a gear shift, or Ethan's steady hand guiding her around a tight corner. One evening, under a full moon, they found themselves outside Ava's apartment, sitting side by side on her creaky wooden porch swing. Ethan wrapped a wool blanket around her shoulders. "This has been unexpected," he admitted, tracing patterns in the blanket's fringe. "Rescuing you was one thing, but getting to know you? That's been the best part." Ava turned to him, eyes reflecting moonlight. "I've never felt so understood," she whispered. In that silence, their hands found each other again, fingers intertwining as naturally as roots in the redwood forest. No words were needed. The gentle warmth of his palms spoke volumes. By the end of that night, Ava knew this was something real. The tentative steps she'd taken, out of her comfort zone, into a bar, across a splintering sidewalk, had led to a new chapter she hadn't seen coming. In Ethan's gaze, she recognized respect, admiration, and a shared spark of hope. Their budding romance was not a distraction, but a source of strength, a promise that life's unexpected turns could lead to deeper bonds. As they sat swaying beneath the stars, Ava felt gratitude for the accident that had brought them together, and excitement for all the unwritten pages ahead. Jason Reed first sensed trouble when a social media post from Ava's colleagues popped up. Photos of Ava Quinn and Detective Ethan Clarke laughing arm in arm beside the Redwood Falls waterfall. The captions praised Ethan's gallantry. Hero cop rescues Quinn after crash. And the images of them together made Jason's chest tighten with a cold fury. He'd thought Ava's heart belonged to him, despite his own betrayal. Now, her smile lacked the shadow of pain he'd once inflicted. In that instant, the seed of revenge sprouted in his mind, dark and relentless. That night, Jason returned to the grand foyer of the Reed estate, where chandeliers glinted off polished marble floors. He greeted his wife, Cassandra, with a perfunctory kiss on the cheek and slipped into his private study. The muted strains of classical music filtered through the door, a stark contrast to the storm in his mind. He poured himself a bourbon, watching the amber liquid catch the lamplight. Cassandra peered in, concern in her eyes, but he waved her away. Just finishing some paperwork, he lied. In reality, he was drafting a plan to ruin Ethan Clarke's career, and with it, destroy Ava's new hope. The next afternoon, Jason dialed a number on his secure line. "Hunter, it's Reed." The voice on the other end crackled with guttural amusement. Hunter Blackjack, Black, proprietor of Eclipse Lounge, was notorious for running a private karaoke bar that doubled as a hotbed for illicit deals. Jason slid a photograph across his mahogany desk, Ava and Ethan walking the waterfall trail. "I want him out of the picture," he said evenly. "Use whatever leverage we discuss." Hunter chuckled. "You want Clarke tangled in something he can't talk his way out of? Consider it done, Lieutenant." That evening, Jason and Hunter met in the muted glow of Eclipse Lounge, closed for the night, save for shadowy figures in the back room. Hunter's imposing frame leaned over a reclaimed wood table strewn with files. Jason detailed his scheme. Frame Clarke for bribery. Make it look like he's taking cash from Ava's family. Hunter tapped his finger on a black-and-white surveillance photo of Ethan stepping out of a patrol car. "I've got guys on the payroll who'll plant evidence, snap photos. Clarke will be suspended before he knows what hits him." Jason slid a thick envelope full of $100 bills across the table. Hunter's smile was a slash in the dim light. "You'll have your revenge." Jason then enlisted Devin Maverick Mills, his trusted informant and floor manager at Eclipse. Devin was charming in front of customers, ruthless behind the scenes. Under dim sconces, Jason laid out the plan. "We'll need to enlist a civilian, someone close to Ava. Get her mother, Marilyn Quinn, to hand over an envelope to Clarke. We'll photograph it, then leak it to Internal Affairs." Devin raised an eyebrow. "Her mother? She hardly knows him." Jason's eyes glittered. "She will. We'll stage the meeting, make Clarke think it's charity money for electric car charging stations. She'll believe you're running a community fundraiser. And when she hands off the envelope, click." Over the next few nights, Devin supervised a small team staking out the Quinn residence on Birchwood Lane. He planted flyers in Marilyn's mailbox, inviting her to a Redwood Falls environmental benefit organized by Nova Drive Motors and personally sponsored by Detective Clarke. The flyer promised a $2,000 donation in exchange for community testimony. Marilyn, proud of her daughter's new career, proudly posted the flyer on her refrigerator. Meanwhile, undercover cameras in bushes recorded her gentle nods as she read the letter. On the designated day, Marilyn approached Clarke outside Redwood Memorial Hospital under pretense of discussing community charging grants. She carried a neatly sealed envelope marked Community Fund, Redwood Falls. As Clarke stepped out of the ER door, exhausted but professional, Marilyn extended the envelope with a warm smile. Unknown to her, two men in dark jackets lurked behind a parked SUV, lens-focused. Devin, posing as a street vendor customer, peeked from behind a coffee cart. When Marilyn pressed the envelope into Ethan's hand, the covert camera flashed twice, capturing frame-worthy images. Within 24 hours, Jason tapped into his sheriff's office contacts. An anonymous tip landed on Lieutenant Sam Kerr's desk in Internal Affairs. "I have proof Detective Clarke accepted a bribe from Ava Quinn's mother. Photos enclosed." Kerr, a by-the-book investigator, opened the attached images, clear evidence of an envelope exchange. He placed Clarke on administrative leave pending a formal investigation. The rumor mill churned, whispers of corruption, betrayal of badge, and impropriety with Ava's loved ones. By morning, local news sites ran headlines, "Sheriff's lieutenant suspended amid bribery allegations." Social media platforms buzzed with speculation. One headline captured it: "Hero cop or fallen officer? Ethan Clarke's future in doubt." Ava awoke to a flurry of notifications, alerts from Lucas Parker, worried texts from coworkers, and news clips auto-playing on her phone. The crash of her new hope was deafening. Across town, Jason sat in his leather-lined home office, sipping bourbon as he watched the scandal unfold on his tablet. Every headline felt like a triumph. "That filthy cop can't deny it now," he muttered, eyes cold. Yet beneath the satisfaction lay a flicker of hesitation. Ethan Clarke had always been a respected figure. Did Jason truly want to destroy another good man for Ava's sake? He shook his head, banishing empathy. "No mercy," he whispered. "She hurt me first." Meanwhile, Ava was summoned to the sheriff's office lobby. Lucas Parker accompanied her, shielding her from prying eyes. She stared at the polished brass nameplate above the iron doors. Sheriff's Office of Redwood Falls County. Inside, the air was clinical. Lieutenant Kerr slid Clarke's suspension memo across the desk. "Miss Quinn, you have the right to remain silent." Ava's throat tightened. Detective Clarke would never," she managed, voice cracking. Kerr closed the folder with a crisp click. "This is a personnel matter. You're free to go." Reeling, Ava stepped outside into the bright afternoon light. Lucas wrapped an arm around her. "We'll set the record straight," he vowed. But Ava felt weightless, every foundation shaken. She replayed the staged meeting. Marilyn's kind face, the sealed envelope, the clicking flash of a camera. It all felt like a nightmare script. As night fell on Redwood Falls, Jason sat alone in a darkened room, the only illumination coming from billowing cigarette smoke and half-empty glasses. He glanced at one of the photos framed on his desk, Ava and Ethan by the waterfall. The image now fueled his vengeance, a reminder of what he'd lost. He exhaled a plume of blue-gray smoke and toasted that picture. "To broken hearts," he whispered, "and shattered lives." No one would suspect the handsome, unwavering lieutenant who once professed love could play puppet master so ruthlessly. In Jason Reed's world, retribution was a blade sharpened by betrayal, and he intended to let it fall on any who crossed him. Cassandra Wells reclined on the tufted leather sofa in the Reed estate's family room, her fingers absently tracing the grain of the mahogany coffee table. The muted glow of the fireplace played shadows across her face, revealing a woman torn between devotion and disillusionment. As Officer Sam Kerr's bribery headline scrolled across her phone, Detective Clarke's suspension shakes sheriff's office. Ava Quinn's family implicated. Cassandra felt a chill colder than any winter wind. She had married Jason Reed 2 years earlier, swept up in a suave confidence and the prestige of the Reed name. Their wedding, an opulent affair in the estate's rose garden, had been the envy of Redwood Falls, cascading orchids, a string quartet, and Governor Sutton as the honorary guest. Cassandra, daughter of a well-connected real estate magnate, believed in love that transcended status. Yet as her husband plotted behind closed doors and her own family's whispers grew sharper, her faith felt fragile. Earlier that day, she'd contacted Detective Charlotte Monroe, the woman Jason assumed was merely chasing corporate misdeeds. Cassandra's voice had trembled as she confessed suspicions. "Charlotte, I think Jason's behind this. I've seen him meet with Blackjack Black at Eclipse Lounge. They're planning something insidious against Ethan Clarke. Please help me stop it." Charlotte's measured response, "You're doing the right thing, Cassandra," echoed in her mind. Cassandra sat up, resolve hardening in her chest. Cassandra rose and crossed the room to the grand piano, pressing a single key. The note resonated in the hush of the house. She closed her eyes, remembering simpler times, the early days of their engagement, exploring redwood trails hand in hand, dreaming of a future where they'd serve the community together. The memory stung. Jason's betrayal had poisoned those dreams. Her phone buzzed. It was Charlotte. "We need your testimony. Can you meet at 7 p.m., Sheriff's Office?" Cassandra's pulse quickened. To testify meant risking scandal, even prison time for aiding an internal affairs probe. But Ethan Clarke, his kindness, his integrity, deserved the truth. And Ava Quinn, who had shown nothing but respect and grace despite heartbreak, needed an ally. Cassandra typed her confirmation. "I'll be there. At 7 p.m. She arrived at the sheriff's office of Redwood Falls County, its stone columns draped in patriotic bunting for the upcoming Memorial Day ceremony. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed as civilians and officers bustled past. Cassandra felt naked without her elegant gowns and family crest brooch. She followed Detective Monroe into a small interview room, where officers stood by a recorder and a stack of official forms. "Thank you," Charlotte said softly, offering Cassandra a glass of water. "You're doing the right thing." Cassandra nodded, steadying her voice. "I know what I'm about to say could change everything for my family, for Jason. But I can't let an innocent man go down for Jason's vendetta." She took a breath. "I saw Jason meet Hunter Black at Eclipse Lounge on March 14th. They discussed framing Ethan Clarke for bribery." Her voice cracked. She collected herself. "I saw Jason hand Blackjack an envelope of cash at the back door. They used my mother, Marilyn Quinn. I have emails and a flyer I created, believing Ethan was organizing a community fundraiser." Charlotte's gaze was compassionate but firm. "That's exactly what we need. Please continue." Over the next 20 minutes, Cassandra detailed every step, drafting the misleading flyers. First hearing Jason's whispered demands, her horror when the staged meeting took place, and her refusal to go along. She handed over marked-up email threads and a black-and-white photo from her own phone showing Jason and Blackjack's late-night exchange. Detective Sam Kerr entered to review the documents. He looked at Cassandra with newfound respect. "Mrs. Wells, your testimony is invaluable. It directly implicates Jason Reed in orchestrating a false bribery claim. We'll need your signature on these statements. You might be subpoenaed, and there's a chance of civil repercussions from your father's firm. Are you sure about this?" Cassandra met his eyes. "I'm sure. Justice must come first. I love my husband, but I love integrity more. If that means losing everything, then so be it." A hush fell in the room as officers exchanged glances. Cassandra's decision rippled through the sheriff's office like a summer storm. She signed her statement with a steady hand, sealing Jason's fate and her own. Word spread quickly. The sheriff's own daughter-in-law had turned whistleblower. Local news vans parked outside the estate as Cassandra drove home, headlights gleaming on tear-spotted windows. Reporters shouted questions, but Cassandra remained silent, her heart heavy yet resolute. Back at the mansion, she found Jason in his study, staring at the fireplace with his back turned. She closed the door softly. "Jason," she began, voice calm but firm. He didn't turn. "I'm sorry," he said quietly without looking at her. I didn't want you dragged into this." Cassandra took a step forward. "You made your choice when you betrayed Ethan, Ava, and the truth. I'm sorry, too, that I turned you in. But I couldn't sit by while an innocent man suffered." Jason spun around, eyes flaring. "You would betray me? After everything?" She held his gaze. "I betrayed the man you pretended to be, not the love I once believed in. If you ever loved me, you'll understand. If not, I hope you find peace with your choice." With that, she left, each footstep echoing down the marble hall. Cassandra Wells walked away from the Reed legacy to stand firmly with justice and the promise of a future defined by her own moral compass. The morning after Cassandra Wells's statement felt electric at the sheriff's office of Redwood Falls County. Sheriff Isabel Morton convened a strategic briefing in the command center, monitors flickering with surveillance footage and digital maps. Around the long oak table sat Lieutenant Sam Kerr, Detective Charlotte Monroe, Ethan Clarke in his neatly pressed uniform, and Ava Quinn, still in her walking boot but sharp-eyed and resolute. They were joined by undercover agent Marcus Liu from the State Bureau of Investigation, FBI liaison Dana Castillo, and a team of uniformed deputies and SWAT officers. Sheriff Morton tapped her pen on a dossier stamped, Operation Redwood Dawn. "Today we move to dismantle Blackjack's operation and clear Ethan's name," she said, voice calm but firm. "We have enough evidence: Cassandra's testimony, the staged bribery photos, email chains, and most importantly, covert surveillance from Eclipse Lounge." On the central monitor, the group watched grainy footage of Jason Reed handing cash to Hunter Blackjack Black in the lounge's shadowy back room. A second screen displayed Ava Quinn's phone photos showing Devin Maverick Mills overseeing booklet distribution of bogus Green Fund flyers. Ethan's jaw tightened as he examined the images. "They used my badge and goodwill as a weapon," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Ava reached over, squeezing his hand. "We'll set it right," she promised. Sheriff Morton continued. "Our warrant authorizes entry at Eclipse Lounge at 0200 hours. SWAT will secure the perimeter. Agents will move in with us on the main floor. And undercover deputies, embedded as patrons, will guide us to Hunter's private quarters and the storage rooms where they've hidden the contraband." She pointed to a floor plan of Eclipse Lounge, highlighting the VIP karaoke booths, rooms Ruby and Onyx, the backstage door, and the underground storage cellar. "We expect Blackjack and Devin to be inside, along with potentially 6 to 8 associates. We've received tips that they keep methamphetamine, illicit prescription pills, and cash processing ledgers in the cellar." Agent Liu nodded. "We'll coordinate our entry on the count of 3. Team Alpha will breach the front door. Team Bravo takes the rear exit into the cellar. SWAT, you'll handle any armed resistance. Ethan, Ava, you two will join me for the initial sweep. Identify the suspects once we're in. Remember, evidence collection is critical. Wear body cams, record every step." Ava swallowed but steadied herself. "Understood." She glanced at Ethan. He gave her a reassuring nod. Side by side, they'd weathered the worst of her heartbreak. Now they faced a far more dangerous chapter together. The night air was thick with anticipation as black-clad officers fanned out around Eclipse Lounge, whose neon Eclipse signs still flickered in defiance. Undercover deputies mingled among late-night revelers lured by discounted drinks and promise of private VIP experiences. Inside, muted bass vibrations throbbed through stained concrete floors and mirrored walls. On a silent signal, Team Alpha, helmeted SWAT officers, rammed the front door. The impact reverberated as officers streamed in with rifles leveled, shouting, "Police!" Down on the ground, lights snapped on overhead, revealing startled patrons and karaoke singers mid-note. Disco lights clashed with red and blue strobes as deputies secured front-floor suspects, 2 bartenders for customers, and a DJ scurrying behind turntables. Simultaneously, Team Bravo's breaching charge detonated against the rusted cellar door out back. A secondary team tumbled into the dank underground, flashlights scanning rows of unmarked crates. Detective Monroe led the cellar entry, badge held high. "FBI. Do not move," she barked. Dozens of vials and plastic baggies littered the concrete, alongside cardboard boxes of cash-counting machines and ledgers detailing nightly collections. Agents cuffed Devin Mills, caught rifling through a box of counterfeit invoices, his eyes wide with disbelief. Upstairs, Agent Liu, Ethan, and Ava advanced toward the private karaoke suites. Heavy footsteps pounded as Hunter Blackjack heard commotion and tried to slip from room Onyx. Ethan intercepted him at the doorway, handcuffs clicking onto Hunter's wrist. "Game's over, Black," Ethan said quietly, voice edged with both justice and pity. Blackjack sneered. "You think this changes anything? Reed's still out there, pulling strings." Ethan's jaw hardened. "Not anymore." In room Ruby, they found Jason Reed himself, hunched over a laptop, hastily deleting files. He froze when the door burst open. Ethan drew his weapon but kept it low. "Jason Reed, you're under arrest." Reed's face paled. In a final, desperate gesture, He lunged for the keyboard, but SWAT officers tackled him to the floor. Cuffs secured his wrists in a metallic snap. "You betrayed your badge," Ethan said, unflinching. Reed spat back. "I was protecting what was mine." Meanwhile, Ava knelt beside a toppled shelf, gently gathering plastic bags marked meth. Her eyes glistened at the sight of shiny pills scattered like fallen stars. She snapped photos with her phone for evidence. "We got it all," she murmured, relief flooding her. By 0400 hours, the scene had transformed into an impromptu evidence warehouse. Officers loaded crates of drugs, cash bundles, weapons, and hard drives into marked vans. Agents dusted fingerprint powder on surfaces. Crime scene techs bagged bingo cards marked as front money and hidden safes containing ledgers of bribes. Ava assisted Detective Monroe by identifying forged flyers and email printouts recovered from computers. Across the room, Ethan oversaw interrogation of Blackjack and Devin Mills. Backup officers questioned stunned bartenders and karaoke hosts, gathering witness statements about nightly private events featuring excessive drugs and unregistered patrons. Overhead, a drone's thermal camera footage confirmed key suspects had trailed Ava at the waterfall, tying Jason's initial vendetta directly to the racketeering operation. At dawn's first light, the last evidence crate was sealed. Sheriff Morton addressed her assembled team in the clearing morning air. "Outstanding work, everyone. This ring funded its entire operation through blackmail, small-town politics, and illegal narcotics. Thanks to Cassandra's courage, Ava's resilience, and Ethan's integrity, we've put an end to it." Applause rippled through the tired officers. Back at headquarters, Ethan entered Lieutenant Kerr's office, holding the plate glass briefcase containing the day's central evidence: photos, digital forensics, bank records tracing bribe money back to Jason Reed's private account. Kerr opened it, scanning documents. "This is rock solid," he said, eyes bright. "Internal Affairs will clear your suspension by tomorrow. We'll recommend commendations." Ethan exhaled, shoulders slackening. "Thank you for believing in me." Kerr clasped his shoulder. "You earned every bit of it." Ava arrived moments later, leaning on her crutches. She smiled when she saw Ethan. "You did it." Ethan met her halfway, gently pushing her hand along his chest. "We did it." Their relieved laughter mingled with the hum of recovered evidence scanners, symbols of justice served. That afternoon, under a crisp blue sky, Sheriff Morton held a press conference in front of the sheriff's office steps. News cameras and local reporters pressed forward as Morton spoke into the microphone. Today, the sheriff's office, in partnership with the FBI and Redwood Falls PD, dismantled a criminal network operating under the guise of karaoke entertainment. We arrested 6 individuals, including Lieutenant Jason Reed, Hunter Black, and Devin Mills, for racketeering, narcotics distribution, and attempted framing of Detective Ethan Clarke. Ethan and Ava stood side by side in the front row. Reporters' flashes sputtered. A cameraman zoomed in on Cassandra Wells in the back, her posture resolute. Morton continued, "I commend Detective Clarke and Ms. Quinn for their bravery. Their integrity led to the exposure of this ring. Let this serve as a reminder. Truth and justice will always prevail." The crowd broke into applause. Ava pressed a thankful smile to Ethan. He dipped his head in modest pride. Later, Ava and Ethan walked the trail by Redwood Falls Arboretum, sun streaming through rustling redwood fronds. Ava's boot was replaced by a snug brace. She could walk unaided now. "Part of me can't believe how quickly everything unraveled," she said, glancing at the waterfall's mist. Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "It was relentless, but justice doesn't wait." He brushed a damp strand of hair from her face. "You were incredible. From that first messy step off the curb to standing beside me in that raid." Ava leaned into him. "I only had faith in you."
She paused.
"And in you." She kissed his cheek, a gentle seal on their shared victory. At the graveside ceremony the next day, moist soil and solemn hymns, they laid flowers in memory of Redwood Falls's unsung victims of addiction. Sheriff Morton stood beside them. "It's never easy," she said quietly, "but sometimes the toughest battles bring out the best in us." Ethan and Ava exchanged a glance of unspoken understanding. They'd fought the darkness together and emerged into the light. By noon, Eclipse Lounge had its doors padlocked, neon sign dark. A for sale sign from the county appeared on the sidewalk. The equipment, cars, and cash were sealed as evidence. The town buzzed with renewed faith. Small-town America had reclaimed its soul. The morning of the trial arrived under a pale autumn sky, the courthouse steps of Redwood Falls County bustling with spectators, local news crews, and members of Ava Quinn's and Ethan Clarke's families. A white tent had been erected at the foot of the neoclassical courthouse, bearing banners reading, "In Pursuit of Truth" and "Justice for All." Deputies stood at attention beneath the red brick pillars, screening bags and directing traffic. Onlookers clustered on the wide marble staircase, craning for a glimpse of the defendants. Lieutenant Jason Reed, Hunter Blackjack Black, and Devin Maverick Mills, each flanked by a cadre of solemn officers in dark suits. Inside the courtroom, the oak benches filled rapidly. Ava, seated alongside her mother, Marilyn Quinn, and Cassandra Wells, adjusted her brace and clutched Ethan's hand under the bench. The gallery included local farmers, teachers, and even some patrons of the shuttered Eclipse Lounge, all eager to witness the culmination of months of investigation and betrayal. The judge, Honorable Marisol Sandoval, entered amid hushed reverence. Dressed in traditional black robes, she carried an air of unwavering fairness. As she took her seat, the bailiffs called the court to order. Prosecuting attorney Helen Gardner rose first. A seasoned litigator from the state attorney's office, her hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, she began with a succinct recitation of the charges: racketeering, narcotics distribution, conspiracy to frame an innocent officer, and official misconduct. In calm, measured tones, she outlined how each defendant had played a role in Operation Nightfall, the codename for the illicit ring. She referenced surveillance footage from Eclipse Lounge, the falsified flyers exploited to orchestrate a staged bribe, and Cassandra Wells's compelling testimony. The jury, 12 faces inscrutable under the gallery lights, nodded as Gardner methodically laid out the evidence. Next, the lead investigator, Detective Charlotte Monroe, took the stand. She described the painstaking process of gathering evidence, the covert audio recordings in the lounge's back rooms, the fingerprint analysis that matched Jason Reed's prints to the cash envelope, the trawl through financial records tracing laundered money back to Blackjack's offshore accounts. She displayed a laptop with decrypted emails between Reed and Blackjack, brimming with instructions to target Ethan Clarke. Each slide elicited a collective gasp, crystallizing the conspiracy in stark digital clarity. On one screen, the image of Cassandra handing the envelope under the hospital lights replayed, her voice echoing, "I thought this was for community charging stations." When Ethan Clarke was called, the courtroom leaned in. In uniform, he presented with quiet dignity. Under direct examination, he recounted how he first encountered the plot, through Ava's mother's unwitting involvement and the malicious tip that led to his suspension. He spoke of the personal cost, the public shame, the doubt cast upon his reputation, and the painful estrangement from colleagues who feared tainted integrity. Yet his tone remained resolute, affirming his commitment to justice and refusing to let vengeance overshadow due process. When the judge asked if he bore any ill will, he answered simply, "I seek only the truth." Cassandra Wells's testimony followed. Dressed in somber gray, she described her journey from wavering wife to courageous whistleblower. With tears glistening, she admitted the terror of turning against her husband and the fear of dishonoring her family name. But she stood firm. "I refuse to be a pawn in a game of retribution. Justice is greater than loyalty to corruption." Her voice cracked but grew steadier, and the jury watched with sympathy as she delivered the decisive account of the staged meeting and envelope exchange. Defense attorney Marcus Reed, no relation to the defendant, rose with poise and delivered a measured opening. He portrayed Jason Reed as a dedicated officer whose judgment faltered only under immense personal pressure. He acknowledged mistakes but argued they did not rise to the level of a calculated conspiracy. For Blackjack and Devon, he offered alternative explanations. Code for legitimate cover transactions in a misunderstood karaoke entertainment business. When he suggested misunderstandings and unfortunate coincidences, the courtroom exchanged skeptical murmurs. Cross-examination by Gardner was relentless. She confronted Reed with emails in which he detailed precise instructions. Make sure Clarke believes the grant is real. Photograph the exchange at the ER door, and our revenge must be swift. Reed's composure cracked. He first denied authorship of some messages, then shifted to claim misinterpretation. Under repeated questioning, his voice wavered, and he broke down. I loved her, a reference to Ava, and I lost control. The judge ordered a recess as observers absorbed the emotional toll. In the afternoon session, Blackjack and Devon sat at the defendant's table, sullen and silent. They were called individually to confirm their roles. Devon admitted overseeing the leaflet distribution at Marilyn's home and coordinating the surveillance team. Blackjack confessed to receiving bribe money he laundered through shell companies, and to facilitating clandestine drug sales at Eclipse Lounge's VIP suites. He seemed almost resigned, nodding as admission followed admission. Courtroom sketch artists captured the despair etched in their expressions. By early evening, closing arguments commenced. Gardner's summation invoked the bedrock principle. When those sworn to protect abuse that trust, the system collapses. We present a tapestry of criminal intent, woven with deception, betrayal, and greed. She implored the jury to uphold the law and restore faith in the badge. Reed, in his closing, painted a picture of a man driven to extremes, begging the jury to temper justice with compassion. But as he spoke, his voice lacked the conviction his earlier bravado had shown. The jury retired at 6:15 p.m., leaving whispers of speculation echoing in the chamber. The hush that followed was palpable, walls bearing witness to months of secrets, now cracking open. In the jury deliberation room, 12 citizens pored over the evidence, deliberating whether conviction would truly serve justice or if mercy had any place in such betrayal. When they re-emerged late that evening, Sheriff Morton and courtroom staff lined the back benches. The jury foreperson stood. We find Jason Reed guilty on all counts: racketeering, conspiracy, and attempted framing of Detective Clarke. We find Hunter Black guilty of narcotics distribution and money laundering. We find Devon Mills guilty of conspiracy and evidence tampering. The gavel fell. Gasps and tears rippled through the gallery. Judge Sandoval's voice rang clear as she pronounced sentences. Reed would face 8 years imprisonment, Blackjack Black 12 years, Devon Mills 5 years, and a hefty fine. Marilyn Quinn was cleared of wrongdoing, her heartache acknowledged by a brief, sympathetic nod from the bench. Cassandra Wells wept with relief and sorrow, clasped in Ethan's supportive arms. Ava watched, tears sliding down her cheeks, as justice was finally served. In the solemn aftermath, reporters swarmed the steps. Ethan and Ava, flanked by Lucas Parker, emerged into the night. Reporters called out questions, but Ethan lifted a hand, and cameras focused on his resolute face. Justice is not vengeance, he declared. Tonight we honored the truth. Let us move forward, rebuilding trust in our community. Ava stepped beside him, voice steady. To everyone who believed in me, thank you. To my mother and Cassandra, your courage changed everything. She paused, hugging them close. Then she turned to Ethan. We begin again. Under a golden street lamp, Ava and Ethan shared a quiet smile, a promise of new chapters anchored in integrity. The courthouse lights dimmed behind them as they walked into the crisp night. The community's faith in justice, once more restored. Sunlight streamed through the towering redwoods as Ava Quinn and Detective Ethan Clarke stepped onto the winding path of Redwood Falls Arboretum. It was a crisp autumn morning, and the forest floor was a mosaic of gold, copper, and fire engine red leaves. Ava, now 26 and in full recovery from her injury, walked confidently in sturdy hiking boots, her supportive ankle brace hidden beneath jeans. Beside her, Ethan, newly promoted to captain, wore a casual flannel shirt and jeans, an unspoken promise that while his badge brought authority, his heart had chosen simplicity and love. They paused on a moss-covered bench overlooking the Arboretum's tranquil koi pond, where ripples danced across glassy water. Ava leaned against Ethan's broad shoulder, her hand brushing patterns in the wood. He draped an arm around her, drawing her close. For a moment, all the trials of the past, the betrayal, the framing, the raid, felt like distant echoes, subsumed by the gentle hush of the forest. "Can you believe it's been 2 years since?" Ava's voice trailed off. "Since that night at the hospital?" Ethan finished, offering a soft smile. "Every day since then has been a gift." He pointed to a single sprouting redwood sapling. "Look how that little one has grown." Ava nodded. "I remember planting saplings here after the raid community service day. We never imagined this." She gestured at the golden forest. That from such darkness came all this life. Ethan's gaze followed hers, pride warming his eyes. "And from your courage. You never gave up." He brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "I wouldn't be here without you." They lingered until midday, sharing hopes for their future together. Ava spoke of expanding Nova Drive Motors' Charge Redwood initiative, installing solar-powered EV charging stations at schools and libraries. Ethan described plans to launch the Sheriff's Youth Explorers program, mentoring local teens in community service and environmental stewardship. Their dreams intertwined, each reinforcing the other. A town rebuilt on trust, sustainability, and unity. Later that afternoon, they returned to downtown Redwood Falls, where preparations for Ava and Ethan's wedding were underway. The community hall was a lovingly restored brick building near Clock Tower Plaza. Rows of white folding chairs stood between potted ferns and strings of Edison bulbs draped overhead. Volunteers from the local high school scouts troop polished glass lanterns. Luna Perkins, the florist, arranged bouquets of goldenrod and violet asters on the windowsills. Lucas Parker, Nova Drive's store manager, supervised with an easy grin, balancing a clipboard in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. Ava stepped inside, cradling a mug of spiced apple cider. Jenna and Maya flitted around her, adjusting a lace table runner embroidered with redwood leaves. Diego carried a wooden crate of preserves labeled Quinn Family Farm, gifts for guests. Marcus fiddled with the Bluetooth speaker system, cueing a playlist of soft acoustic covers. Cassandra Wells, now a respected advocate for community integrity, oversaw a stack of programs printed with the ceremony order. She caught Ava's eye and rushed over, enveloping her in a warm hug. "Oh, sweetheart, you look radiant," Cassandra murmured. "I'm so proud." Ava smiled through tears. "Thank you, Cassie, for everything." Cassandra pulled back, studying her. "I never imagined I'd ever be here, supporting you and him." She gestured toward Ethan, who stood with Sheriff Morton, reviewing final security plans. "You two are the soul of this town." Ava squeezed her hand. "I wouldn't change a thing." As dusk deepened to a velvet twilight, guests began to arrive. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and smoldering citronella torches. Soft candlelight flickered inside paper lanterns, casting a warm glow on faces adorned with joy. Among the guests were teachers from Redwood Falls Elementary, sheriff's deputies in dress uniforms, Nova Drive engineers, local farmers, festival volunteers, and countless townspeople whose lives Ava and Ethan had touched. Ava, in a simple yet elegant ivory gown featuring an embroidered redwood motif at the hem, stood at the head of a petal-strewn aisle. Her hair was braided with small asters, framing her radiant face. She clutched a bouquet of goldenrod and white lilies, symbols of perseverance and purity. Ethan emerged from the tree-line, wearing equals. "System. I'm sorry, but it looks like the artifact content was cut off." Below is the complete text file with the full content of your provided story, formatted with appropriate paragraph breaks for TTS audiobook compatibility. Each paragraph is separated by a blank line to ensure clear pauses for natural narration flow. Xi artifact_ID equals 387251C1E24F3FBD9FBF4F25DC5A1D. Artifact_version_ID equals EDB0603F4BAB41DB91A4D05117B. Title equals New Beginnings for Ava and Ethan. TXT content type equals text/plain. Part 10. New Beginnings for Ava and Ethan. Sunlight streamed through the towering redwoods as Ava Quinn and Detective Ethan Clarke stepped onto the winding path of Redwood Falls Arboretum. It was a crisp autumn morning, and the forest floor was a mosaic of gold, copper, and fire engine red leaves. Ava, now 26 and in full recovery from her injury, walked confidently in sturdy hiking boots, her supportive ankle brace hidden beneath jeans. Beside her, Ethan, newly promoted to captain, wore a casual flannel shirt and jeans, an unspoken promise that while his badge brought authority, his heart had chosen simplicity and love. They paused on a moss-covered bench overlooking the Arboretum's tranquil koi pond, where ripples danced across glassy water. Ava leaned against Ethan's broad shoulder, her hand brushing patterns in the wood. He draped an arm around her, drawing her close. For a moment, all the trials of the past, the betrayal, the framing, the raid, felt like distant echoes, subsumed by the gentle hush of the forest. Can you believe it's been 2 years since? Ava's voice trailed off. Since that night at the hospital? Ethan finished, offering a soft smile. Every day since then has been a gift. He pointed to a single sprouting redwood sapling. Look how that little one has grown. Ava nodded. I remember planting saplings here after the raid community service day. We never imagined this. She gestured at the golden forest, that from such darkness came all this life. Ethan's gaze followed hers, pride warming his eyes. And, from your courage, you never gave up. He brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. I wouldn't be here without you. They lingered until midday, sharing hopes for their future together. Ava spoke of expanding Nova Drive Motors' Charge Redwood initiative, installing solar-powered EV charging stations at schools and libraries. Ethan described plans to launch the Sheriff's Youth Explorers program, mentoring local teens in community service and environmental stewardship. Their dreams intertwined, each reinforcing the other. A town rebuilt on trust, sustainability, and unity. Later that afternoon, they returned to downtown Redwood Falls, where preparations for Ava and Ethan's wedding were underway. The community hall was a lovingly restored brick building near Clock Tower Plaza. Rows of white folding chairs stood between potted ferns and strings of Edison bulbs draped overhead. Volunteers from the local high school scouts troop polished glass lanterns. Luna Perkins, the florist, arranged bouquets of goldenrod and violet asters on the windowsills. Lucas Parker, Nova Drive's store manager, supervised with an easy grin, balancing a clipboard in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. Ava stepped inside, cradling a mug of spiced apple cider. Jenna and Maya flitted around her, adjusting a lace table runner embroidered with redwood leaves. Diego carried a wooden crate of preserves labeled Quinn Family Farm, gifts for guests. Marcus fiddled with the Bluetooth speaker system, cueing a playlist of soft acoustic covers. Cassandra Wells, now a respected advocate for community integrity, oversaw a stack of programs printed with the ceremony order. She caught Ava's eye and rushed over, enveloping her in a warm hug. "Oh, sweetheart, you look radiant," Cassandra murmured. "I'm so proud." Ava smiled through tears. "Thank you, Cassie, for everything." Cassandra pulled back, studying her. "I never imagined I'd ever be here, supporting you and him." She gestured toward Ethan, who stood with Sheriff Morton, reviewing final security plans. "You two are the soul of this town." Ava squeezed her hand. "I wouldn't change a thing." As dusk deepened to a velvet twilight, guests began to arrive. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and smoldering citronella torches. Soft candlelight flickered inside paper lanterns, casting a warm glow on faces adorned with joy. Among the guests were teachers from Redwood Falls Elementary, sheriff's deputies in dress uniforms, Nova Drive engineers, local farmers, festival volunteers, and countless townspeople whose lives Ava and Ethan had touched. Ava, in a simple yet elegant ivory gown featuring an embroidered redwood motif at the hem, stood at the head of a petal-strewn aisle. Her hair was braided with small asters, framing her radiant face. She clutched a bouquet of goldenrod and white lilies, symbols of perseverance and purity. Ethan emerged from the tree-line, wearing a charcoal gray suit and a boutonniere matching her bouquet. His eyes locked on hers, and a hush fell across the assembled crowd. Cassandra, having delivered a heartfelt solo performance of Bright Morning Stars, stepped aside as Sheriff Isabel Morton assumed the role of officiant. Lucas Parker stood nearby with a small notebook containing their vows. Marcus, on soundboard duty, cued a soft guitar intro. The ceremony began with a blessing. In the presence of these redwood sentinels and loved ones gathered, we celebrate the union of two hearts bound by courage, resilience, and love. Ethan took Ava's hands. Ava Quinn, you taught me that redemption is possible and that true strength lies in compassion. I vow to honor your spirit, celebrate your dreams, and stand by you through every sunrise and storm. Tears shimmered in Ava's eyes as she replied, Ethan Clarke, you saved me in more ways than one. You showed me kindness, justice, and partnership beyond measure. I promise to support your missions, cherish your heart, and love you more deeply with every passing day. They exchanged rings, slender platinum bands with inlaid redwood leaf patterns, before sealing their vows with a tender kiss. Applause and cheers erupted as they walked back down the aisle together, a joyous testament to community triumph over adversity. Inside the hall, an array of local cuisine awaited. A farm-to-table buffet featuring roasted root vegetables, herb-crusted salmon from the nearby river, artisanal cheeses from Willow Creek dairies, and a seasonal apple brandy cask for toasts. Nova Drive's interns manned a charge station photo booth, where guests posed with oversized cardboard EV charging plugs. Derek Hamilton, the high school band director, led a bluegrass ensemble through Wagon Wheel and Take Me Home country roads, prompting spontaneous line dances. Ava and Ethan shared their first dance beneath a canopy of twinkling lights to an acoustic rendition of Harvest Moon by Neil Young, the lyrics a fitting echo of their own journey. Because I'm still in love with you, shining in the night, I want to share that night with you. They moved slowly, the world narrowing to each other's embrace. As they swayed, Cassandra joined in, guiding Marilyn Quinn and Lucas Parker into a tender trio, symbolizing healing families and friendships. Between dances, Ethan took the microphone. Thank you all for standing by us, through heartbreak, through chaos, through triumph. This marriage isn't just about Ava and me. It's about every person here who refused to let injustice define us. We are Redwood Falls, and together we rise. Glasses clinked, laughter and tears mingled in the warm glow of shared history and hopeful futures. The cake, a 3-tiered confection decorated with sugar leaf applique, stood on a rustic table. Marcus cracked a joke. Watch out, this eco-cake might be carbon neutral, but it's still dangerously sweet. Ava cut the first slice, feeding it to Ethan with playful flair. He returned the favor, smearing frosting on her nose. Guests erupted in laughter, capturing the moment on phones and cameras. As the evening wore on, lawn games awaited outside, cornhole boards, ring toss, and a giant Jenga set. Ava and Ethan hustled guests into friendly competitions, cheering on impromptu tournaments under the starlight. Sheriff Morton officiated a fierce cornhole match between deputies and fire department volunteers, while Lucas and Jenna refilled cider mugs with homemade ginger-spiced brew. When the last guests departed under a harvest moon, Ava and Ethan slipped away to a hidden bench overlooking the waterfall, the same waterfall where their story had pivoted from pain to purpose. Fireflies flitted around them, casting ethereal light on the mossy stones. Ava nestled into Ethan's arms, breathing in the night air. "I couldn't have imagined a night more perfect," she whispered. Ethan kissed her forehead. "Every chapter led to this one. Written by you, by us." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small envelope. Ava raised an eyebrow. He opened it to reveal a camera memory card. Footage from tonight and earlier. The raid, the trial, our first test drive. I've compiled it all into a short film. He handed her a tablet where a slideshow of clips played. Their awkward first meeting, the hospital rescue, planting trees, court triumphs, and today's wedding. A tapestry of their journey unfolded, each frame a testament to resilience and love. Ava's eyes glistened with tears as the final shot faded into a simple title card, Ava and Ethan, in pursuit of justice and love. She pressed her head against his chest, heart full. "You truly are my hero," she murmured. Ethan tightened his embrace. "We're heroes together." Months later, Redwood Falls thrived under the glow of newly installed solar-powered charging stations. NovaDrive Motors' flagship Redwood EV Expo drew visitors statewide. The Sheriff's Office Youth Explorers program inspired teens to volunteer in municipal projects and environmental cleanups. Ava and Ethan hosted an annual Autumn Justice Walk at the Arboretum, raising funds for local recovery centers. Their story, once riddled with betrayal, had become a beacon of hope. On the anniversary of their wedding, Ava and Ethan returned to the Arboretum bench. A fresh sapling, planted in their honor, now stood taller than many others, a living monument to the power of resilience. Ava closed her eyes, listening to the distant roar of the waterfall and the rustle of leaves overhead. Ethan's arm around her felt as enduring as the giant redwoods. In that moment, they knew life storms might yet return, but together they had built a foundation unbreakable by fire or flood. Their love, born in crisis, tempered by courage, and celebrated by community, would continue to grow, just like the forest that bore witness. And so, under the watchful canopy of Redwood Falls Arboretum, Ava Quinn and Ethan Clarke stepped forward into their new beginning, hand in hand, hearts aligned, ready to write the chapters yet unwritten. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistory Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.